This is a demo of Copilot D. Copilot D is a new command line app that runs as a daemon and watches your GitHub repos for issues that match configurable rules and then dispatches Copilot CLI instances on the machine where you're running the daemon. So I'm going to come down here and let's get started and copy this PowerShell script. We'll install Copilot D on this machine. Okay, so now if I run Copilot D, we can see we've got a few commands available here. It seems like the first thing I need to do is init, so I'm going to go ahead and init. We have some dependencies. It's checking that I have the GitHub CLI installed, obviously that I need the Copilot CLI installed, that I'm authenticated, and that we're ready to go. So now it's asking, where is the root directory on this machine that I typically clone my GitHub repos? So on this machine, that is at D source GitHub. Now it's asking how many concurrent Copilot sessions do I want to run in parallel while using Copilot D. I'm just going to accept the default of 3. I'm going to accept the default for the default model. I will just let the Copilot CLI select the model. Now it's asking about the dispatch rules. We will set up a default dispatch rule as part of the initialization procedure. And it's asking, hey, who can create issues that will cause Copilot D to dispatch issues? Now, by default, it's any author, but you can lock this down to specific issue authors if you wish. Second, it's saying what labels have to be on those issues for them to be considered a match and thus dispatched. And that defaults to saying, hey, we're looking for a label called Copilot D, but again, you could make that whatever you like. Asking if I want to run the Copilot CLI instances in YOLO mode, I'm going to accept the default of no. I do want to allow all tools though, so that the instances can execute things in the shell and make fetch requests and whatnot. And then it's going to say, hey, do you want to allow access to any URL without prompting? I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Okay, you can also override the default global model. So rather than having relying on the global model, you can do rule-specific things as well. In this case, I'm just going to accept the default again. And then it's going to go off and look at my repositories. And I'm going to select which repositories I want to watch and then check those rules and then dispatch local Copilot CLI instances if those rules match. I'm just going to pick one of these right now. You can see that they have to be cloned already. And Copilot CLI remote sessions, which is what this will dispatch, can only be executed in the context of an already cloned GitHub repo, because they basically need to be homed somewhere for the remote control UI on github.com to exist. So I'm going to say, yep, let's do that one there, and that'll finish our init phase. So now I am ready to go. So I'm going to say Copilot D run. We're going to set the interval to something lower. Usually it defaults to 60 seconds, but for the purposes of the demo, let's make it a little bit tighter. So now it's going to poll every 10 seconds. It's going to go ahead and launch a remote session that I can use to remote control the daemon. So that's kind of nice. I've got the URL to the remote session there. So if I have access to github.com and I'm signed in, I can always inspect remotely how my Copilot D daemon is going. Okay, so now it's going through a reconciliation cycle saying it's found no issues. So let's give it some work to do. I'm going to go over to this other repo of mine, Custos CLI, and I'm going to give it some work. So I've got this issue here to add support for another output format. And I'm going to assign it to myself because that was the first part of the rule. And I have to add the Copilot D label as well. So now on the next reconciliation cycle, once those changes are acknowledged, what we should see is it will detect that issue, and then it will go ahead and start up a instance. So we can see here it's found one new issue matching it. It's created a session here named after the repo and the issue matched by the default rule. It's created a worktree. That worktree is ready, and it has gone ahead and launched Copilot, ready to start working on that specific issue. Now, this issue was phrased in such a way that maybe it's not really ready to be worked on. Maybe I'm just looking for some input at this point. So we'll see what happens here. If I go over to my agents tab on here, we should be able to see that there's a new remote session that has been started, which is the one that just got started by Copilot D. And I can click on here, and indeed, it's a remote session. I have access to this. I could even steer this from the web UI if I wanted to. So no matter where you are, what machine you're on, as long as Copilot D is running on the dev machine that you want to do the work, you can now always dispatch it work, and you can still remote in and get access to those sessions and steer them. So we can see it's responding to the prompt that was injected by Copilot D. It says the issue is kind of open-ended and not really implementation ready. So it's going to do a little bit of analysis, and then it looks like it's preparing a recommendation, which it's going to post back to the issue in order to clarify what the work should be. So we'll just wait for that to finish doing so, and then we should see a new issue comment show up. Okay, so there is our comment. So it's funny, I'm talking to myself here because obviously it's running as me, but it says it dug into the current option, and before implementing anything, it's found that we already support these formats. CSV is already wired, a couple of trade-off analysis, and now it's recommending, hey, a TSV is probably the best thing to do. So, okay, let me go say that sounds good. Let's go with TSV then. And so I'll do that comment back. And Copilot D will actually detect that there's been an update to this issue. And then it will go into its redispatch flow, which is, okay, it already understands that this session has existed. It says here, new comment from me detected on this issue. And that means it will relaunch that session now to continue work on this. So if we come back here, we should see now that it's actually thinking, said it's resuming work. You can see that prompt has just been injected as a new set of instructions now that this session has been rehydrated, and now it's got the context. It's going to go ahead and start actually working on that issue. Now, once that issue is complete, we should expect to see a PR get opened, and from that point, we can even give feedback on that PR. So let's just wait for that work to complete, and then we'll go and have a look at the PR. While we're waiting for that, we can actually show some of the other features of Copilot D. We have an active session going on right now. So if I open a new tab, and I'm going to come back to my root, I can investigate the sessions that are going on. So I can just give a status check. I can see here, yes, so I've got a session running here. I could go into that session and I could ask for info. So that's going to be Damien Edwards, Custo-CLI, issue number 62. And we can see all the details about what's happening with that session right now. You can even go and connect to that session. So using the GitHub Copilot CLI's capabilities for remote sessions and connecting to remote sessions, I can connect to the background CLI instance that is currently working on this. So here I am now, though this is effectively the Copilot CLI version of the UI that we were seeing over here on the web. And so you can see I'm connected to the exact same session, both from the web interface and from locally on the machine where it's running, but I am remote controlled or remote connected into the background Copilot CLI session that Copilot D is managing. So I'm going to go ahead and exit. So if I run status again, we can see that, okay, so it's moved to a new status of waiting for review. So that suggests to me that the PR has been sent. So we can see here now that that PR is ready. So I can go over and have a look. And I could choose to review this now. Perhaps if I had some feedback, I could come in here and create inline review comments. And again, the session would be redispatched and detected by Copilot D, and I can continue that until I'm happy with this PR, and then go ahead and actually merge or close it out. At which point, the daemon would detect that that session is now moved to a terminal state, and obviously any other work going on will continue to work along with this type of flow. So lastly, we can look at the rules. So we said up front that we get a default rule when we initialize. And so I've got my one default rule that says issues have to be assigned to me. They can be authored by anyone, but they have to have the Copilot D label. They can be in any milestone or any type. And then these are the repos that are currently subscribed to this rule. And you can see and then impact the launch options for the launch Copilot CLI instances that this rule will dispatch. Now, I could go ahead, obviously, and create many rules. I could update this rule to include other repos. I could have multiple rules that operate on the same repo. So then, for example, you might have one rule with a custom prompt. You can set custom prompts for rules. That specifically does perhaps research, or you could even set an agent. And then you could have another rule that perhaps gets dispatched on a different label, and then that is used to actually go off and do work. So you can kind of build your own workflow with this based on a fairly simple rule system that is then used to, as I said, match issues and then dispose that work. So that's Copilot D. Go and check it out today. You can get up there. You can get there either at copilotd.damienedwards.dev, or you can go to my GitHub profile and look for the Copilot D repo.